The night my boss decided to end my career began with a whisper he thought no one would ever hear. I was moving through the crowded ballroom of the annual Christmas party, greeting clients, checking on staff, and trying to hold together the last major event of the year when Elliot Briggs stepped neatly into my path. He leaned in close enough that his breath brushed my ear and murmured, "This will be your last event. We are letting you go after tonight, for a moment." I simply stared at him. 12 years in this company, hundreds of events, and all the weekends I had traded for someone else's success reduced to a whisper disguised as holiday cheer. But instead of breaking, something steadied inside me. I smiled. Not because I was unbothered, but because, all week, something in Elliot's tone, in his rushed meetings and nervous glances, had told me this moment was coming. "Thank you for letting me know," I said quietly. It was the only reply he deserved. He expected me to fold, to crumble in front of the very room I had spent days preparing for. He did not expect me to stand up straight and look beyond him, and he certainly did not expect what happened next. The doors to the ballroom opened again, and in walked Martin Caldwell, the Chief Executive Officer of Caldwell Industries, our biggest client, and the reason the company's revenue had doubled in the last 3 years. Martin's gaze swept slowly across the room until it landed on me. Then he walked forward with purpose, ignoring Elliot entirely. "Lynn," he said, lifting a glass, "a toast to our partnership." Elliot stiffened beside me, caught between confusion and panic. Martin's eyes never left mine. My smile deepened at the exact moment I saw Elliot begin to understand what he had miscalculated. He thought he was ending me. He had no idea the ground beneath him was already shifting. The story you are about to hear is a fictional work created by the writing team at Her Revenge. Although inspired by real workplace dynamics many women experience, all characters, events, and situations in this narrative are imaginative and crafted solely for dramatic storytelling. Any resemblance to actual people or companies is coincidental. I stepped away from Elliot, the sound of laughter and clinking glasses rising behind me, and moved toward the only man in the room who had ever treated my work as something worth acknowledging. The night was far from over, and nothing about it would end the way Elliot intended. How many years of loyalty does it take before a company forgets the person who held it together? The question echoed in my mind as Martin's toast faded into the noise of the Christmas party. His words had pulled me backward 12 years backward to the day I first stepped into Westbridge events with a cheap blazer, a thin resume, and more hope than sense. I had been 23, fresh out of Portland State University, grateful for any job that would cover rent and student loans. Elliot was not my boss then. He was just another coordinator who smiled too widely and took credit too easily. I learned quickly that if something went wrong at an event, he was the first to disappear and the first to return once I had fixed it. "You saved my presentation," a marketing director told me once, still shaking after a projector meltdown. Elliot stepped in before I could respond and said, "Happy to help." I swallowed the sting because I thought the team mattered more than the praise. Caldwell Industries had been nothing more than a modest winter luncheon when I inherited the account. "Do not overinvest in them," Elliot had warned. "They are not worth the trouble." But I did invest. I learned their rhythms, memorized names, built trust. The luncheon grew into a statewide conference. The conference grew into a multi-million-dollar partnership that paid for half of Westbridge's expansion. Elliot's tone shifted after that. "You got lucky," he said. "Right place, right time." "No." I answered once. "Right work." He had never forgiven me for saying it. The cost of my dedication piled quietly around me: missed birthdays with my sister, late nights that left my voice hoarse, entire weekends swallowed by last-minute crises someone else caused. I stayed because I believed in doing things the right way, even when no one noticed. I stayed because loyalty had to mean something, even if it meant losing pieces of myself. I watched Elliot across the ballroom now, his jaw tight, his eyes avoiding mine. If your loyalty is invisible to the people who benefit from it most, what is it truly worth? What if all the signs were there, but you did not want to believe someone was preparing to sacrifice you? I had asked myself that question more times than I could count in the weeks leading up to the party. The truth was simple. The signs had been everywhere. I just kept pretending they meant something else. The first sign came when I walked past the glass conference room and saw Elliot sitting with human resources. Their heads were close, voices hushed. When I entered to drop off a file, They both stopped talking. Human resources smiled too brightly. Elliot did not smile at all. "We are reviewing departmental structure," he said later, as if that explained why my name had been on the presentation screen behind him. The second sign crept into my inbox quietly. A project I had led for 3 years was reassigned without warning. When I confronted Elliot, he tapped his pen against his desk. "You have too much on your plate. I'm trying to help you." The third sign hit harder. Elliot forwarded a message from accounting with a single line attached. "We need to discuss these budget discrepancies." He added, "This is on you, Lynn." It was not. He knew it was not, but arguing only made him sharpen his tone. The final sign arrived as a text message from an unknown number. "Be careful. You are being positioned." I stared at the words for a long time before locking my phone and opening my laptop. That was the night I began saving every email, every directive, every altered instruction outside my apartment. Portland's winter rain hit the windows in steady, relentless taps. It felt like a warning, or maybe a countdown. By the time the Christmas party approached, the pressure had tightened so much it felt like a hand around my ribs. I knew something was coming. I just did not expect Elliot to choose a room full of clients to deliver the blow. When you realize you are the scapegoat, do you fight the trap or study who said it? Why would a client know your worth before your own leadership does? The thought flickered through me as Martin Caldwell set his glass down and gestured for me to step away from the noise of the ballroom. His tone was gentle, but his eyes were sharp. He was studying me the way he studied contracts, with intention and attention to detail. "Walk with me, Lynn," he said. "I have been meaning to speak with you." I followed him toward a quieter corner, my pulse still unsteady from Elliot's whisper minutes earlier. Martin folded his hands behind his back. "Do you remember the Northwest Tech Expo 3 years ago?" A small breath escaped me. "The one where the stage lights blew 15 minutes before your keynote?" He smiled. "Yes. The one you saved. I did what needed to be done." I said. "No," he corrected. "You did what no one else could have done. My team has not forgotten." His expression shifted, the warmth fading into concern. "But tonight, something is different. You look tense." I hesitated only a moment. After 12 years of silence, it felt strange to say the truth out loud. "They are letting me go after this event." Martin stilled. The anger that crossed his face was not dramatic. It was controlled, precise. The kind of anger that meant consequences. "They are firing you," he repeated, as if confirming a fact too absurd to accept. "Yes." He shook his head once, slowly. "If they do not value you, that is their loss, but it does not have to be yours." His voice dropped, steady as stone. "Remember that." Something inside me steadied something that had been wavering for weeks. How powerful can one moment become when someone finally says the words you needed to hear all along? What happens when a man who thought he held all the power realizes he has miscalculated? The answer unfolded in real time. Right in front of me. I had barely stepped away from Martin Caldwell when Elliot appeared again, moving quickly. His smile stretched too tight. "Lynn, a word," he said, reaching for the authority he believed still belonged to him. I kept my tone neutral. "I am in the middle of something, Elliot." He lowered his voice. "You need to be careful about how you speak to clients tonight. We do not want mixed messages." Before I could respond, Martin rejoined us, placing a steady hand on my shoulder. "Actually, Elliot," he said, "I was hoping Lynn could walk me through the updates on the first quarter events. She has been the key point of contact." Elliot froze. Yes, of course." But I should. Martin cut him off, not unkindly, but unmistakably. "It is all right. Lynn has it handled." The shift was small, almost subtle, but undeniable. A client dismissing the boss to speak with his employee was not just unusual, it was humiliating. Elliot's eyes flicked around the room, searching for someone who might salvage the moment. He found no one. A member of our company's board, Elaine Forster, approached and touched Elliot's arm. "Could I have a word with you?" she asked quietly. Her expression was polite, but the tension around her mouth told a different story. Elliot followed her toward a side hallway, shoulders stiff. I watched him go, then turned back to Martin, answering his questions with the professionalism I had built my career on. The noise of the party continued, but something in the air had changed. People were watching not me, But Elliot. He had walked into this event believing he owned the room. Now, for the first time, the cracks were beginning to show. If the person who tried to ruin you shows their cracks, do you confront them or wait for the world to notice on its own? What would your workplace do if they discovered the account they depend on is loyal to you? Not to the company. The answer arrived early the next morning, when my phone buzzed with a message ordering me to report to an emergency leadership meeting at 8:30. No explanation, no agenda, just urgency. When I walked into the conference room, Elliot was already there, pacing. His suit was pressed, but his eyes were swollen, as if he had not slept. The executives from finance, operations, and human resources sat around the table, avoiding direct eye contact. Elaine Forster cleared her throat. We received an email from Caldwell Industries at 6:45 this morning. She clicked a remote, and the message appeared on the screen. Caldwell Industries expects Lynn Marwood to continue leading all 2025 events. Any reassignment will require a reevaluation of our contract renewal. The silence that followed was sharp enough to cut. Elliot forced a laugh. There must be a misunderstanding. Lynn was never human resources interrupted him. Elliot, we checked your documentation. There is no record of a termination decision, none at all. If you told her she was being let go, you did so without procedure. Color drained from his face. I was in the process of no. Elaine said firmly. You created exposure for the entire company. I kept my hands folded in my lap, my expression steady. Finance chimed in next. If Caldwell pulls out, we lose nearly half our projected revenue. We need stability, not impulsive decisions. Elliot's voice cracked. Lynn has been difficult to manage. I was trying to protect our operations. Elaine looked at me instead of him. Lynn? Do you have anything to add? I shook my head. No. The client's expectations speak for themselves. My silence, for once, held more power than any defense I could have offered. When your silence becomes your leverage, how far should you let it go? What if the people who dismissed you suddenly needed you more than ever? The room seemed to hold its breath as the executives shifted their focus from Elliot to me. Elaine folded her hands, choosing her words carefully. Lynn, she began, we value your contributions. Any misunderstanding from last night can be corrected. We would like to discuss a revised role, senior operations lead, expanded authority, and a compensation review in the new year. Elliot nodded quickly, desperate to reclaim control. Exactly. We can reset. Fresh start. A miscommunication. Nothing more. I looked at him. You told me I was being let go. His jaw twitched. Emotions were high. I phrased things poorly. You whispered it. I said. Emotion had nothing to do with it. Finance chimed in, attempting to soften the blow. We simply want to ensure continuity with Caldwell Industries. If your presence secures that, we are prepared to move forward together. There it was, the truth, stripped bare. They needed the contract, not me. Before I could respond, the conference room door opened. A receptionist stepped in. Lynn, Mr. Caldwell is here to see you. He asked for a private meeting. Elliot's head snapped around. He is here. Now I followed the receptionist down the hall to a smaller room where Martin Caldwell stood, hands in his pockets, calm and collected. Lynn, he said, I will be direct. You deserve more than what they can offer you here. I stayed silent, waiting. I want you as an independent consultant, he continued. Full creative control, excellent pay, and the freedom to build a team if you choose. And for the record, Caldwell Industries will follow you wherever you go. It was not flattery. It was a fact spoken plainly. My breath shook, just once. A door I had never imagined was opening, wide and undeniable. When freedom and loyalty pull you in opposite directions, which one deserves your future? How far will a threatened man go to protect the story he built on your silence by noon? The answer was obvious. Elliot was unraveling. He cornered two coordinators outside the conference rooms, speaking loudly enough that the echo carried down the hall. Lynn misunderstood everything. He insisted, I never terminated her. It was a performance discussion. She overreacted. One of the coordinators glanced at me as I passed, guilt flickering in her eyes. Elliot kept talking, rewriting history in real time, desperate to make someone believe him. Later, in the break room, a junior employee named Kara pulled me aside. Her hands trembled slightly as she spoke. I should have told you earlier, she whispered. But Elliot has been saying for weeks that he was going to pin the financial shortfalls on you. He said the board needed someone expendable. I felt the words hit, sharp but not surprising. Thank you for telling me, I said quietly. She swallowed. There is more. Someone leaked emails this morning. The whole office saw them. The leak spread faster than gossip ever had. A chain of messages, Elliot directing accounting to reroute blame to my department. Elliot telling operations to let Lynn eat the fallout. Elliot complaining that I was too visible with clients. By the time the executives reconvened, even the most cautious among them had stopped pretending. Elaine laid a printed copy of the email chain on the table in front of him. Can you explain this? She asked. Elliot's face went ash white. Those were drafts, he stammered. Internal notes. Nothing was finalized. It was enough, she replied. More than enough. In that moment, he understood the story he had worked so hard to craft had slipped entirely out of his control. If a liar loses control of the story, how long until the truth closes in completely? How do you walk away from the place that broke you without letting it keep a single piece of you? The answer unfolded as I stepped into the conference room for what I knew would be my last meeting at Westbridge Events. Elliot was not present. He had been placed on administrative leave that morning. Only Elaine and two executives waited at the table, their posture stiff with forced professionalism. Lynn, Elaine began. We hope you have taken time to consider our revised offer. We can stabilize your department, reinstate your full authority, and discuss compensation adjustments. I met her eyes. Thank you, but I am not staying. A flicker of resignation crossed her face. Finance exhaled sharply, already imagining the fallout. May we ask why? Because you are trying to save a contract, I said, not a relationship. And I cannot build my future on fear or convenience. No one argued. They knew I was right. I stood smoothing the hem of my blazer. I will transition any open projects appropriately, but my role ends today, by the afternoon. I was in Martin Caldwell's office, signing the agreement that made me an independent consultant. My own schedule, my own clients, my own value, defined by my work, not by someone else's insecurity. Martin extended his hand. Welcome aboard. Lynn, we are lucky to have you. 3 months later, Westbridge reported a revenue drop of 40%. Without the Caldwell account and the credibility behind it, their expansion plans collapsed. Elliot's suspension shifted into a full investigation into internal misconduct. I walked past the Westbridge building one last time, light snow beginning to fall, and felt nothing but clarity. What does revenge become when you realize you do not need it anymore? What happens when the person who tried to end your career ends up knocking on doors you are now in charge of? The question stayed with me as winter faded and my new professional life took shape. 3 months after leaving Westbridge Events, I accepted an invitation to train corporate leadership teams across Oregon on ethical management and event strategy. It was work built on everything I had learned the hard way: how power should function, and how easily it is abused when no one holds the line. During a workshop at a downtown Portland firm, the human resources director handed me a stack of candidate files. We are reviewing applicants for a new operations role, she said. If any resume stands out, let us know. We trust your judgment. I nodded, flipping through the documents one by one. Then I stopped. The name on the folder was written neatly across the top: Elliot Briggs. For a moment, I simply rested my hand on the page. The director noticed my pause. Do you know him? Yes, I said. We worked together. There was no anger inside me, no bitterness, just a clear, calm recognition of who he had been and who I no longer was. I closed the folder gently and slid it back across the table. He needs lessons I am not the one to teach. The director accepted the file without question and moved on. The decision was made. When the session ended, I walked out into Portland's early spring air, the breeze carrying the soft scent of rain and new beginnings. For the first time in years, my career was not defined by who tried to diminish me, but by the people who believed in my value and trusted what I could build. Sometimes the most powerful form of justice is choosing a path that rises so far above the people who tried to break you that their actions can no longer reach where you stand.